Right, hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Common Sense Guys channel. This was to have an actual title rather than it being "This is the COVID-19 stream." This was actually supposed to be something along of the lines of "This is the Commonwealth chat" or "What's going on in the Commonwealth." I will get back to actually naming the fucking stream. I just can't remember it at the minute. But yeah, I'm here again today with Kay as well. How you doing, buddy? It's always good to see you.
Yes, now that I've got my camera on. Yeah, I'm good. Oh, fuck, I deleted a tweet. Never mind, I'll get back to it.
God damn it.
I was supposed to hit send and it came. I pressed the wrong one, it came up, and I pressed delete. It's like, balls. Never mind. I'll get back to it.
So, yeah, we're going to be talking about the virus and things like that. We've got a couple of stories lined up. If anybody wants to leave any sort of chats or anything else like that in the chat, then do it and ask us any questions that you want to. It doesn't have to be anything that's regarding about tonight as well. This is generally, for me anyway, is a stream that we have kind of a situation where we're going. But if you guys want us to take us off into a different area or a different avenue, as long as we know what have an idea. Let's not say we know, because then that's liable.
I don't know nothing.
I know nothing. I'm from Barcelona.
What's the film from? Oh, it's Lee Evans, isn't it? I don't know nothing.
I love Lee Evans. Lee Evans, yeah. God.
At the moment, he's got a couple of specials for free on Amazon Prime if you got it.
I'll have a look at that.
Yeah, so I sat and watched that the other day. So I haven't seen any of his things in a couple of years. I sat and watched it and I pissed myself laughing.
I absolutely love Lee Evans. He's absolutely amazing.
One of the best comedians of this generation.
I would say, I'd say almost any generation. Right, let's try and see if another person has been able to get onto the stream. Because at the minute, we're getting ready to do the story, but let's see how you go. How are you doing, RoboBrain? Can you hear us? Hey, yes, just about, yes.
Just about. Okay, I'll try and turn it up a bit.
It's good. It's good hearing you again, mate.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, that's a bit better. So how have you been, mate, before we kick off with the actual story? Because everybody can see the story, but how have you been? Because it's been a week, and how's everything in the land down under, the one that doesn't exist, apparently?
Well, I'm still alive, and I haven't run out of toilet paper yet. So, yeah, so far, so they got a bit... it's a bit weird. We're on lockdown, but I live near a main road, and it's always busy. It's weird. You can see signs of things closed down, but other things going as normal.
Yeah.
It's a bit surreal.
No, I'm with you on that one. Me and Kay were just talking about it beforehand, but me and my partner went shopping. Obviously, only one of us went into the shop and so on and so forth, but I drove. And one of the shops, you had to queue to literally get into the actual shop. And then literally a mile away in the same technically same store, as in it was a Tesco's. Other stores are available, but it was in the Tesco's.
Yeah, it's
and to get in. And the other one
as well.
Yeah, I never went in, but the other one you just went straight in. There was no queuing, no nothing. You just went straight in. It's weird.
I mean, that happened. Yeah, I mean that happened to me and Mum the other day. We went down to Morrison's to try and grab at least something, and obviously we had to queue. But you got this old couple who just randomly stopped in the middle of the street, and as we've gone through them because they left the gap, we've gone straight through them. Me with me walking stick and Mum on her day off from work. That's what she's gone. The old couple have gone. What about social distancing and stuff like that? It's like, well, don't just stop in the middle of the street. I mean, Mum's walked off.
Yeah.
And I'm basically having an argument with her husband. And that's what she's gone. Go on, do you want to start? And her husband's looking at her to say, do you fucking mind? He will kill me because I'm not a small fella. But I sat there having an argument with this not old man, I say early 40s to mid 40s, so
Yeah.
only about 20 years my senior. But yeah, she's
to be
trying.
fair though. To be fair though, it might as well. It could have actually have been. He may have the virus himself. Don't fucking make me touch him.
The thing is, you got them going. Well, you're supposed to be 2 meters apart. Don't you watch the TV? It's like, no, we don't. Mum's too tired by the time she gets home from work because she's a key worker. She works in a store feeding the likes of you. And I don't watch TV anyway. I watch everything on my laptop. The only TV I do watch is sports, or obviously my football. And
What football?
Eh?
What football?
Exactly.
Well, no, I meant you're a supporter of Chelsea. What football?
Yeah. Shut up. But no, I don't just watch Chelsea. I watch all the matches.
You mean actual proper teams?
Yeah, I mean, like, if it's a football team on the TV and I've got nothing better to do, I'll sit and watch football because obviously I pay enough for the fucking Sky package. I'm going to get me money's worth.
Yeah, that's the thing that Sky should actually be doing, isn't it? Because there is no sports on at the minute.
No.
So what are you actually, not you, but in general, but what are you actually paying for? Sky should be giving you a kind of a refund or kind of a cut, because you're not actually paying for the sports packages at the minute because you're not getting anything.
No, yeah. But as the point is, the only TV I sit and watch is me football and Food Network because I like me food. But apart from that, I don't watch any news. I don't watch any like ordinary terrestrial TV or anything like that.
Yeah.
I basically pay for Sky so that my stepdad can have his fishing channels and his other channels, and my mum can have her, like stuff like crime channels and. I basically pay for them to watch their own TVs and stuff, and I basically just have mine on in the background while I watch my laptop or while I'm on my PC making videos.
Yeah.
But yeah. Do you not watch TV? It's like, no, we don't. Well, I don't believe that. It's like, you can believe what you want, but we don't.
Yeah, I mean, either way, if they're the ones that stopped in the middle of the street, it's kind of their fault that you walk past them. What would you expect the people to stop in the middle of the street with you? Everybody just to stop all at the same time because you wanted to smell the fucking roses.
Yeah, but the thing is, they didn't even go to Morrison's. They carried on right down the road to Tesco. Or I should imagine anyway, because they had bags with them. They looked like they were going shopping, and they walked straight past Morrison's. And the only other supermarket within like a few mile radius is Morrison's, which is about a mile down the road.
Yeah.
So
no, I'm with you on that one. The funny thing is that we've just been talking about the idea of self-isolation and things like that, and I've been noticing this for the last about 4 or 5 days, where you've literally got pictures and videos of the train services, specifically the train services, though the buses don't seem as bad because there's probably more of them, to be honest. But the trains themselves are so compact when moving and traveling around London that there is no way of being able to deal or be able to uphold to the idea of at least a 2 meter radius of not having your social distancing and so on and so forth. The reason for that is because Sadiq Khan decided that he was going to counsel more and more of the buses, trains and trams.
Yeah, but the thing is, I don't get why he's done that. He's having complaining that people aren't social distancing, yet he's cancelling the things that can...
Politics.
Yeah, it's like, hang on a minute, you're cancelling the shit that is basically causing people to cram together. And you're now coming out saying we need to stop this. It's like, fine, put the buses and trains back on.
Oh, yeah. The funny thing is...
That'll cost too much money. It's like, who gives a rat's ass?
Well, no, we're already spending too much extra anyway. Are you guys getting a stimulus package and all this shit money thrown at the public? How much is it?
I don't think we're getting money thrown. I don't think we're getting money necessarily thrown at the public. Most of it's to do with the fact of making sure businesses are afloat and rent is being technically paid for and so on and so forth. It's not so much that people are getting money necessarily, but everybody's being looked after. I think even the self-employed are now being told that they can go onto universal credit for a little while and so on and so forth without any worries.
Yeah, but the thing is, when it comes to that, is like, what about us people who don't get no assistance from the government, aren't employed or self-employed, who are literally just stuck in limbo?
I suppose you could classify yourself as self-employed and then throw yourself onto the heap of joining Universal Credit.
Yeah, but the thing is, I've tried joining Universal Credit. I don't qualify for it. That
would have to be a conversation I have with you after the stream to find that out and circumstances, because as far as I know, everybody can get a form of Universal Credit.
Yes, they can, but obviously when you go onto the website to see if you're eligible for it, you have to provide accurate information, don't you? The moment I put down that I have a physical disability, they say I'm not eligible for Universal Credit to go claim personal independence payment, or basically disability allowance.
No, they're two separate. They're two separate benefits.
Yes, I know, but they send me to that department to claim from there because obviously physical disability. So I'll go there and I'll try to claim that, and they'll take me. I'll go for the assessment, and they'll deem me fit for work. But the moment I go back to Universal Credit, they'll say no, you aren't fit for work.
Yeah,
and they'll send me back to personal independent payment. For the past 5 years before I had my last job, obviously bearing in mind these can take anything for between 3 to 6 months at a time. I was being pushed from pillar to post with neither helping and neither wanting to help. They were both basically saying it's not our responsibility, go to this department. Not our responsibility, go back to that department.
Look, like I said, I'll have a conversation with you afterwards about that, see if I can do anything to help you or not. I'm not too bad at that side of things. But unfortunately, without going through everything, I won't be able to really go through anything apart from moaning about how piss poor the whole benefit system is in general.
Yeah, tell me about it.
But
don't tell me about it, we don't have time.
Yeah, well, no, it's not a case of we don't have time. It's a case of it will get too personal, because then you have to ask, well, why can't you do this? Why can't you do that? So on and so forth. And that's not a conversation that anybody really wants to have on a live stream, to give so many personal details away. It's just not an interest. Well, not a case of it being an interesting. It's just not a intelligent thing to do, to give the internet your personal information.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Actually, the reason I brought that up was because of the trains. I thought it would be better to for the government to put more trains on, because you require more staff, keep certain people employed, and that way
you would have thought so, wouldn't you?
Cramming a train full of human sardines. Yeah, it's
exactly that. Exactly. You would have thought so, because as it says as the title there, 1/3 of all TfL Transport for London staff are sick or self-isolating amid coronavirus outbreak, Sadiq Khan says. Now, let's take this for a quick instance of hypothetical. Do we think that the reason why 1/3 of the staff are being sick is because of what RoboBrain just said, where you are forcing so many human beings into one proximity, so that there is a very high chance of people getting sick and being a contagion to others? Or is it a case of, it's just luck?
No, I think there's a direct cause. In my opinion, there is no other way that it can possibly happen. You can't just get it from just randomly. This sort of thing has to be passed from person to person. And when you have people like that, you don't know who's sick. To be honest, there are more asymptomatic carriers than there are people with symptoms. So you don't know who's got it, who doesn't. The person that has it may not know they have it, so they're just going out and doing life normally, thinking, "Oh, I don't have it. It's not. Who am I going to give it to anyway?" And going on the tube and obviously perhaps coughing or yawning, which lets out little water droplets and stuff. And before you know it, that whole carriage is possibly infected.
Oh, a good portion of it, regardless.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it only takes one extra person to get infected on that person's travels, and then that person can infect another 2 to 3 people. That person those 3 people can then infect another 9 people, and then 9 times 3 again.
Yeah, but the thing is, I saw something on it the other day. Yeah, someone explained it properly. You could have one person who has it, who doesn't realise they got it, yawns into their hands, doesn't bother washing their hands, goes up to someone, shakes their hands. That one person, or goes to 10 people, shakes their hand. Those 10 people will go to 10 people. Those 10 people will go to 10 people. And in 2 to 3 days, there's about 10,000 people possibly infected. Like that. Because one person yawned. Yeah.
I'm with you.
Yeah, it's like
I just wanted to show very, very quickly. I just wanted to show how compact these trains are, because it's for people that are up in the US or in other countries. It's really bad. Yeah. This is obviously the underground as well, which is not the best.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Just so everybody can see that properly. I know it's a bit dark, and I'm sorry, but that's just the way that the underground is. Yeah. That's a whole carriage, completely filled to the brim with people standing and sitting. That's all because that Mr. Sadiq Khan decided that he was going to reduce the carriage numbers and the running times of the trains. In other words,
that's just...
Go on.
Yeah, that's a part and parcel of living in a big city, I'm told.
No, that's to do with terrorism, my friend. Though then again, you could say that this is an act of biological terrorism.
All the big cities are known for having shit railway. Like Metro in Sydney in Australia, it's horrible. And New York's the same. I just immediately thought of that. It's almost like he said, oh, let's run less trains. We need to keep up the normal state of affairs as much as possible.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely with you on that one, but I suppose I'm a bit more cynical, especially when it comes to somebody like Sadiq Khan. I can't help but think that there is an underlining theory behind it, maybe, if you want to go down that.
Experimenting
more people get ill or sick.
Herd immunity stuff.
The government never actually pushed for the idea of herd immunity. It was a case of they had to quell the numbers that were going straight into, but at the same time, they couldn't do an immediate lockdown simply because then the virus would just come back out in 2 or 3 weeks' time and everybody would get ill again. So they had to kind of make things come through. I hate it when, I know you didn't mean it, but I hate when people go, oh, the government pushed herd immunity. It's like, no, they didn't. There was always a plan that when they reached to a certain point in the curve that they were going to lock everything off. It was just a case of that they didn't want to do it to begin with.
Yeah, otherwise it'll literally just be like that until obviously the lockdown ends, and then it'll increase, and then they'll just have to lock it down again.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, if you let it get a few, and then obviously to a certain degree, and then lock it down, those with it will obviously will be isolated. Yeah. They will get over it, and then it'll be clear to go out.
Yeah.
Rather than just try and do it safe straight away.
Yeah. I mean, the idea of healthier people, for instance, getting the idea of it being immune to it anyway, was a case of people, well, scientists mostly, going, well, yeah, there are going to be certain people that when they get it, they're going to have human antibodies that are able to fight it off, and then that would develop a kind of an immune system towards it. But it was never a case of, oh, herd immunity is going to do everything for us and so on and so forth. It was never that. Yeah, you kind of hit a nerve on that one, because I've been talking to a lot of leftists on that topic. So sorry about that one.
Yeah, but the thing is,
actually, I was thinking more. I was actually thinking a bit more conspiratorial. Like I know that they've never officially said that, but I'm absolutely sure that when someone in the civil service or scientists in whatever organization are thinking about this, they will be calculating that into the situation. So I don't want to go full conspiracy theory, but I'm thinking of everything.
Oh, I was going to go full conspiracy theory. I was going to go full conspiracy theory and actually say that I think Sadiq Khan himself has done this on purpose to be able to force more and more people in London to get ill, so that people that are not, let's say, up on politics, that know that Transport for London is run solely and controlled solely by the mayor of London, that he can pass the buck and say, well, it's the Conservatives' fault, isn't it? It's all them. And if anybody thinks that would never actually happen, he's done that before.
I know he's done that before. The thing is, you've got polls coming out now with Westminster voting intentions.
Yes.
And 54 intend to vote Conservative in the next mayoral election.
I hope so.
Yeah, he's completely out. Looks like Sean Bailey might actually win it.
Well, to be fair, he actually seems that he's the only one that's actually interested in, 1, tackling knife crime, 2, actually dealing with situations, and 3, working with others to actually get everything done.
Yeah, I mean, when this first started coming out, instead of Sadiq Khan addressing what he was going to do and how he was going to address things to try and fix it, all he could do was tweet about how he's standing in solidarity with the LGBTQ community, who can no longer have the London Pride because of this. It's like, yes, fine, whatever. What are you going to do to address and fix this?
Nothing.
Solidarity!
He's not going to do anything, because as long as the Conservatives in power, it's the Conservatives' fault, even though he's in control of the London Metropolitan Police that needs to do something about crime and the Transport for London. But, that doesn't matter.
Yeah, the thing is, he'll blame it on not enough funding, despite his funding actually going up under the new Tory government.
Don't talk to me about funding when he literally just spent 300 billion. No, sorry, 300 million on a new city hall when that wasn't needed. Where my maths is not as good as Diane Abbott's, but let's say at 30 grand a piece, you could get around about 100 police officers out of it. Around about.
Well, if it's 300 million at 30 grand a piece, that's 1,000.
Well, there you go. As I said, my maths is as bad as Diane Abbott's.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
the good thing is I'm not a politician.
Well, you got 30,000 at 100. That will equal 3 million.
Yeah. No, that's fine. I get it.
Actually, I think it's.
It doesn't matter.
That'd be 30
It doesn't
million.
matter.
Yeah, but no, that would be 30 million.
Because in general, you can get around about 1,000 or whatever it was police officers instead of a new city hall that wasn't even needed to begin with because it was already up to date.
Yeah.
But that was the point.
But there we go.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that in itself is not just a one aspect thing as well. This is almost every single train journey in and throughout London. I mean, how do you social distance on that? Look at it. How can you social distance on that? Look. Like, you literally would have to be in China pushing people into the train to get more people on at that point.
He should have just left. I mean, it does look like there's less people travelling if you do the math.
God damn it.
Yeah, but it does actually look like there's less people travelling overall. So what he should have done was left the same amount of tubes and train buses and that on. That way, more people could spread out their journey.
No, exactly.
It's like if you leave the same amount on, but even there's less customers going onto it. Yes, it's going to be a bit more cost, and you're going to probably run at a little bit of a negative for a little while, but you're going to work at an even higher negative if less people can go to work because they're ill with coronavirus.
Well, even take away the idea of it being a case of people going to work, for instance. I don't like using the actual name of the channel and whatnot, but let's use a little bit of ounce of common sense. If you've, as we said before, if you've got a packed train or a packed bus full of people, and you know that you've got around about a third of your employees being sick, there is a direct correlation with you filling up your trains and you getting the people that directly work for you as being sick with the coronavirus and passing it on. The actual actions and decisions that you have made as a boss, being Sadiq Khan, to cut these programs and cut these trains and buses and trams and whatnot, is actually directly affecting the people that work for you, let alone the people that are actually in London. But, no accountability because he's Sadiq Khan.
Yeah, he never takes accountability for anything, even when it's his direct decision. So I don't get how that works. I'm going to do this, but if it's a bad idea, it's not my fault.
Exactly that. As somebody that's not got any sort of bias in this, because obviously me and Kay have, what do you think on that, RoboBrain? Do you think that we're trying to take that out of context, or do you think that kind of makes sense from the outside looking in?
For the outside looking in, I can only go by the reputation that precedes Sadiq Khan. So I'm going to take your word for it.
I'm not even going to ask if you're using the toilet at the minute.
No, I'm filling me bottle
that's
up.
him.
Oh, right, that's fine.
I didn't realise my mic was picking that up.
Yeah, I'm looking at the next story, and all I can hear is, as he's speaking, he's going to wee.
No, sorry, I'm filling my bottle up, so not constantly picking up a can and crumpling it. Sorry, didn't realise we
Oh,
might
that's
pick
fine.
that up.
That's not a problem. That's not a problem. So basically, yeah, the Sadiq Khan thing does kind of precede his reputation, doesn't it? But it's interesting, isn't it, that because of the reputation, people just don't want to hold him to account anyway because they know that they not can't, but it just doesn't make a fucking difference. Because let's be honest, it really fucking doesn't make a difference if anybody tries to hold him account or not. Because somehow, some way, he just gets out of it.
Well, you
I
have
don't
all
know how
the,
he does that.
yeah, you have
Just
all
keep
these
blaming
soy
the
boys.
Conservatives.
He will
Yeah.
do. He will do. He
Yep.
will just blame the Conservatives.
Yeah, and then you have all these soy boy beta cucks protecting him, going, "Well, it's not his fault if he had the proper necessities and etc. etc." It's like, dude, he has. He just chooses to misplace or misappropriate the funds.
He does choose to misappropriate the funds. I was going to do a massive video on him about how he misappropriates the funds. Like somebody that was able to give him funding. I think somebody gave him around about 500 to £1 million, so 500,000 K to £1 million in donations for his last mayorship election. Has recently just got a reinvestment in contracts that were given to him that are worth around about £5 to £10 million each. It's amazing how that kind of works out, isn't it?
What a lucky so-and-so.
Almost like there was
an incentive.
Agreement, or I mean, it's amazing. Now speaking of one form of human happiness, let's talk about the human happiness that's around in my area of Lincolnshire, and actually one of the shops that I actually shopped near, believe it or not. And
He sniffled. He's got it.
Yeah. So, anger after man pulls down trousers and spits at woman queuing outside of Tesco's. Yeah. So, a woman was spat at by a man who exposed himself to her while she queued to get into the Lincolnshire Tesco's. Basically, to make it nice and easy, so I don't have to read the whole goddamn story because I've read this before. Basically, people were queuing up to be able to get into the Tesco's, keeping their distances at around about 2 meters, so that 2 meters of distance while queuing to get into the store because it wasn't open yet. And apparently somebody just decided that they were going to walk all the way past to the front to try and push in. Then everybody told him not to be able to push in, so he dropped his trousers, phlegmed onto the trolley of this old lady, and just did that. I'm literally, I don't know how else to explain it. And two men tackled him to the ground and moved him off, and he escaped. But yeah, I mean, if this doesn't show you how humanity actually is and how flawed it is, then I don't know what will, considering that, we're in a pandemic at the minute.
Yeah. If there's one thing I've learned from this entire situation, is that human beings are so effing selfish.
Yes. I completely and utterly agree with you on that one. They really are. To the point of, I can't get into a Tesco's. So I'm literally like a 2-year-old autistic child going to drop my trousers and spit at you simply because I can't get in front. I mean, that's literally what just happened in my local area. And before anybody asks, no, it wasn't me.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm not confident enough to drop my trousers.
Good point. Oh, Jesus Christ. Where I'm from, it's actually quite high on the list of the cases.
I don't disbelieve it, mate. I don't disbelieve it. That's why you've just got to...
stay in there. There's 230.
Oof. That's not good, mate.
No.
That's just not good.
No. But I've had academy training. Who knew being an introvert all my life was coming handy?
Yeah. I mean, do you have anything to add to that, Robo Brain, about the happiness of humans in general, about how heroic they are?
After seeing people fighting over toilet paper, I'm not surprised at this point.
Fair enough.
I don't know. It just sounds like someone losing their mind or already unstable, just not coping.
To be fair, there is a possibility of that. To be fair, there is an actual possibility for that, because there is an adult. I'm trying to word it properly. There is an adult disability housing area quite near to where that Tesco's is. So there's a possibility that could play a part in that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not allowed to go see my brother at the moment because he's in one of those.
Yeah.
But obviously, because he's at risk like I am, we're not allowed to go see him at the moment. But the thing is, that does sound like something he'd do if he gets overwhelmed. Not not do that, but like kick off, try to hurt people, that sort of thing, because they just can't grasp it.
Yeah.
Because obviously their mental capabilities is not there. When I first heard, obviously he dropped his trowel and spat. It's like, it sounds to me like he's not
mental
quite.
breakdown.
Yeah, he's not quite right in the head.
Yeah.
I don't think it's like intentional. I'm a flasher. I'm gonna. Yeah, I think he's not quite. He's not got all his sensibilities with him.
The thing that actually got me with that.
Anyway.
Sorry, mate. Repeat that, because I accidentally spoke over you.
I think most people who are generally pretty sane and rational are not quite coping. I mean, a lot of people I know are sort of up and down, and I mean, even walking through shopping centres at the moment or going to the supermarket has just been, you can see it on people's faces, there's sort of weird, it's hard to read the emotion on people's faces because they look like they're covering up.
Oh, no, I definitely agree with that.
So if someone's not able to grasp the situation, plus God knows what other stresses they might have going on in their life, I'm not surprised if some crazy stuff is going to start happening.
Oh no, I definitely agree with you on that one. I think what we're trying to get at is the fact of you can understand the reasoning and rationale of fighting over the last toilet roll or the last cucumber, something stupid. You can understand that aspect of it, but when it comes to a point of throwing your trousers down to then expose yourself to and then spit is kind of a reaction that is, should we say, to be generous, on a spectrum. I think people will know what I mean by that.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Someone is going to be. You'll probably see more of this sort of stuff happening. I reckon there'll be the crazies will come out, Mad Max style. Hopefully not, but
see that's where I was going to go. I don't think it's a case of what you said coming out. It's more of a case of, with that side of the spectrum, it comes to a point of when you physically and emotionally can't comprehend what's going on. As far as I'm aware, it comes to a point of that you get annoyed that you can't comprehend what's going on, so you get annoyed at yourself, and the outburst comes as a point of expressing that anger or not being able to understand what's going on about yourself and internalize it, and it comes out as that, which is why certain people on that type of a spectrum do the, as we would call it, crazy shit.
Yeah.
I mean, would I be right in assuming that? Or am I just talking crap?
I'm thinking it's sort of like the canary in the coal mine. The people who have, specific conditions are going to be the first to be noticeable. Probably first to snap, but I reckon, give it 2, 3, 4 weeks and I hope it doesn't come to this, but if it comes down to months of this stuff going on, I expect you're going to see some other strange things happening. And
No, I definitely think we'll be able to see more and more crazy stuff happening. I think that comes to more of a stretch into the idea of how people are actually looked after, how people are cared for. Because I think, as we probably can agree on this one, I think this comes down to probably a mental health issue of how this person reacted. I don't think that this was a intentional reaction to try and hurt the person, because why the fuck would you drop your trousers down and not do anything? You know what I mean? You're not trying to piss on her. You're not trying to do anything. You just drop your trousers down. It's just a reaction that makes no sense whatsoever, but it's a reaction of anguish, if I want to use a word like that. Maybe it's a bit too harsh, or maybe it's a bit too emotive for that type of response, but it doesn't seem to be a normal aggravated response to I can't get into a queue. It seems like it's a specific type of spectrum response that you would get from somebody that doesn't understand why they can't go into a store and why they can't go into where there's a space while queuing up. Somebody that just doesn't seem to grasp what's going on and why. That's what it seems like to me anyway.
Yeah.
I suppose, again, as we're talking about the idea of, should we say, government maybe not necessarily being able to control or sort out any other aspects of things, as in other areas being neglected because of the hyper-focusing of the coronavirus. Obviously, we knew that in February that there were some floods that hit a couple of places and that. As far as I'm aware, nothing's really been done about those areas and has actually been left. Now, I suppose that the point is on this one is, what do you do in a situation like that? Now that the waters have subsided and there needs to be a rebuilding or a cleaning out, for instance, and now we have this pandemic that's going around, how do you help the societies around, or the communities at that point, like for this situation, for this pandemic? Because they obviously need people to help them build their homes or sort out their homes and so on and so forth. But at the same time, can you actually put people on the ground to be able to do that in this type of environment at the minute with the pandemic? Is it right that the government has, I don't want to say left them, but basically has to fend for themselves?
I suspect this is an issue that's not just so much about what the government will or will not do, but I think this is something that's probably just ripped through everyone, every part of society, and that maybe the people who are responsible for it are just staying home because maybe they don't know that they should do something about it, or they see themselves as non-essential, so they stay home, or maybe their bosses thought that, and just the whole process of how things get done it's been derailed. And I mean, the first thing I was thinking looking at this is that's a health risk, because now you've got stagnant water. And
I think most of the water has subsided and you've gone back. But I do understand what you're saying. There are still going to be water in houses that's going to cause mold and things like that.
Yeah, so I don't know what to make of it in terms of whether or not in what way it relates to the virus. So is it just part of the chaos, or is it something that's been deliberate, where someone's deliberately said, okay, we're not putting resources on this? Or
well, from what I know, from what Boris Johnson was saying beforehand, they were going to sort this out. This was going to be a priority. They were going to look into being able to sort all of this out. But obviously we started getting the coronavirus in January, or at least was knowing about everything that was happening in January. But the floods obviously happened in February. At that point, especially in March, everything in March accelerated exponentially daily. So it's kind of a case, from what I can understand, as things happened, they said that they were going to do something, but because of the virus, undone because of the virus and the restrictions that are being placed. So in these communities with over 1,000 homes being affected, well over, I would imagine, being affected by the water and everything else of that, as well as businesses and whatnot, that they just can't do anything because of the restrictions that have been put into place. I don't even imagine local communities would be able to step in to help, because you can't really say, okay, mate, let's all go into the village hall and let's all sleep in the village hall, because you'd be breaking the restrictions of the coronavirus, of social distancing and whatnot.
Yeah, I think it's just plans were happening, but with the coronavirus hitting, it's just been knocked for six. And obviously, unfortunately, the way it is, there's nothing you can do really anyway until everything can be properly addressed. And obviously, there's no chance to address them because we're in the middle of a pandemic. I mean, I don't need to sound heartless or anything, but I know it's their homes. But if we don't get on top of the pandemic, thousands upon thousands, even up to hundreds of thousands of people are going to die.
Sure.
It's just a house at the end of the day. I know it's their home and everything, and they live there, and it's theirs, but if you were to go to ask them personally, directly, what would they happen, or what would they rather happen? Hundreds of thousands of deaths if we don't get on top of the coronavirus pandemic, or them not being able to sleep in their houses for a few months because of a little bit of water. Which do you think they'd rather happen?
I think it's kind of similar to what RoboBrain was saying beforehand. With the idea of the water that's been into the actual houses themselves, some of them are not going to have any electricity. Some of them are not going to have any heating. There's also going to be the idea as well of mold appearing, rising damp in the house and things like that, which can have their own adverse health risks as well, which are obviously going to be, especially in Wales, that I believe only have 2 or 3, maybe 3 hospitals in the whole of Wales to be able to deal with the pandemic themselves, and then these types of situations as well. Remember, if they have 1,000 homes that have been affected and there's 3 people in those homes, that's a potential of 3,000 people just off top of head that have a chance of having some sort of form of respiratory case or respiratory disease or something that could happen to them, which is also going to make them so much more susceptible to the disease in itself. Now, I do understand exactly where you're coming from, where it's a case of, yeah, we do have to sort out the pandemic. But asking the question, is there no way of being able to do both? Of being able to make sure that these people are safe and looked after in some way, shape, or form? Like, say, for instance, allowing the village hall to become, say, a quarantined area, or other places like that to become a quarantined area where they can all go into that area, or just left on their own. Because nothing is being done at the minute because of the restrictions.
I mean,
go on.
I mean, when it comes to something like this, all of this is always down to local government and local councils. You need to ask yourself why local government and local councils aren't doing it themselves. Obviously, it's well and good that people will say, well, Boris Johnson needs to do something, but obviously all his time and effort is on trying to deal with the coronavirus. When he's like that, each individual area is supposed to be managed a lot when it comes to this sort of thing by local government and local councils and that sort of thing. Like when my old work flooded, that was down to the local government to
I understand.
sort things out. But yeah, it's need to ask why the local government aren't doing anything. Well, perhaps because maybe the local government have no one there, perhaps, but they're all ill, or perhaps they all have coronavirus themselves. I mean, it does say that there's like 900 people with cases in this area.
Sure.
Or perhaps it's hit the local government the hardest and they just can't do it. Well, then obviously you can't pass the buck up the ladder because obviously everyone else is trying to deal with the pandemic. So it's a case of what can they do to actually address this? Because in reality, there is not much that they can do. And I know all the water might have subsided, it might not. But until you can get an actual grasp of the situation and see what's damaged and what's not damaged and what needs to be done, you can't start trying to fix it. And obviously, at the moment, we can't start trying to fix it anyway, because the people that would fix it and address it, like builders, that sort of thing, are
Sure.
having to be self-quarantined.
No, I understand exactly where you're going, though. I would throw in a challenge at that point that the local government are always going to be restricted by the national government. So if the national government says that you can't do, they are bound by national government's laws and regulations, so to speak. But to go on to your other point, I was trying to more get to saying that in this type of situation, maybe there isn't a way of them being able to rebuild the houses, for instance, but maybe being able to use forms of not necessarily warehouses, but something in that sort of facility of being a flat place where people can take go, and just turning that into a form of a quarantine, so everybody can have some sort of form of heating, so everybody can be looked after, so they can quarantine themselves together. Keep the elderly with the elderly, keep everybody else with everybody else. That way, you can separate people. I mean, just those basic steps would be enough to be able to put these people more at ease. But even that's not being done. They're just being left on their own. Now, again, maybe that is a case of that's the correct way of dealing with things because you need to focus on the pandemic itself. But when did we become only able to focus on one thing at a time? Why can't we focus on the pandemic and helping these people at the same time as a government, as a country?
I mean, perhaps people are working in the background to try and figure something out. We don't know. All we have is what we have presented in this. And obviously, if there's someone working in the background try and figure this something out, you wouldn't know because obviously they're in the background. Perhaps there is a government official going around trying to find somewhere that can house these people. We don't know. All we can know is these people feel like they're being left to their own devices, but there could be government officials trying their hardest to try and find somewhere. But obviously, there aren't many places that can hold that type of level of people. I know you've got town halls and places like that, but in reality, even they can only hold so many. And then obviously, you've got funding on top of that. You've got to try and push through and say, oh, can you do it at this amount of price? And there's a lot to go into it that obviously people do not see from the background or do not see up front.
I do understand that it would be something that would need to be organised and it would be something that needs to be set up. And I'm not saying that the local government aren't doing anything. They do actually say in the story that they are prepared and doing as much as they can and so on and so forth. For me, the point that I'm trying to make is, can we not do something to help these people while the coronavirus is around and it being a pandemic? Because if we do leave these people, then these people have a very high chance of getting the virus themselves because of not being looked after. Now, that means that those people have a very high chance of infecting more and more people, as you said before, and you take one of them, then the whole village could get infected. That's all I was meaning. That why can't we do both?
We probably are doing both, but they just can't see it because obviously it's in the background.
Maybe so. What do you think, Radio Brain? What do you think?
Yeah, I kind of agree with Kai, and that it's hard to tell what's not in the background. I mean, on one hand, I feel bad for them as well, but I'm also reading it and I'm thinking, this could be a lot worse. Like, this could be they do have somewhere to go. They do have a fallback of some sorts. But I'm just trying to figure out, how should this be put in perspective up against the virus versus, other types of tragedies that could occur. Like, it reminds me of the bushfires here in Australia. There's people whose houses have probably been eradicated, that they might have been living on a farm somewhere, very isolated, and now they're living in a city cramped in with relatives who are high risk of getting the virus. So there's very different stories that are going to be coming out of this situation. And I guess one thing going through my mind is, in my own life, is where are things really at? Like, it's making me question a lot of things about what we take for granted and what we don't take for granted. Yeah, it's getting the noggin jogging, so to speak. But yeah, I'm not really sure what to make of it. The more I look at it.
No, that's fair enough. I just think it's a story that was interesting simply because it's something that I thought would show the fact of necessarily the government may not be doing all of the local situations that it could do to make sure that everybody is being safe and secure and so on and so forth. It seems that, and I'm not saying that they're wrong to do this, but it seems that the government is completely focusing on one aspect, on one issue, and possibly, in my opinion, neglecting other issues that to some people are much more important and immediate than what needs to be done elsewhere. That's all I was trying to get at.
Yeah, no,
but it feels like they're being left behind.
Yeah, I think that's a good question, but I just don't feel confident drawing a conclusion.
Sure.
Because, yeah, I don't know, it's hard to tell. I can look at it one way, I can look at it another. But while we're in the middle of all this, it's still figuring it out, I think.
No, I'm with you. I mean, I do understand that there are more pressing matters to contend with. I do get it. It's just, I don't know. My heart bleeds for them. You know, I want to be a bleeding heart liberal on this situation. I do think that there should be some form of protection for them, or the government assistance in some sort of structure or some sort of way of at least trying to help them be safe and secure, and not necessarily rebuilding their homes, but just some way of making sure that, you know, they've got some heating or some sort of form of way of living. I don't know. As I said, some bleeding heart liberal. We need to do something. Anything.
Well, maybe they are, and this is just the BBC hating the Conservatives. Maybe
it's a possibility.
Doing plenty about it. I don't know.
It's definitely a possibility on that one.
Yeah,
it's definitely a possibility on that one. So let's go from one group of rich people to another group of rich people.
Oh, he's frozen.
Yeah, I was just thinking, where is he gone? Yeah. Hopefully he comes back any moment now.
He didn't have the sniffles before by any chance, did
he? He was sniffing a little bit.
Yeah, I reckon. Actually, I've had a cough and this, a little bit of a runny nose. I swear to God, I reckon it's just stress from being hyper aware about all this. Oh, there's going to be two of him now.
I got rid of the other one.
Oh, there we go. It's like he disappeared on us.
Well, I went to go and share the next story, and because my computer wants to fucking update, because, you know, of course it fucking wants to, because I'm doing a stream. It wants to turn off everything.
Yeah, no, my computer does that every once in a while. It'll go, you need to update. It's like, no, I don't. I don't need to do anything.
There we go. So, yeah, one section of rich people to another section of rich people. But I think it's much more interesting to this, because from what I've read of the story, just to summarize the story rather than reading all the way through it, is anything lower than, I believe, Premiership, I believe, have almost decided that they are going to write off this. Well, the FA and PFA have decided that they're going to write off the whole seasons. So anybody that was going to get promoted isn't going to get promoted. Anybody that was going to get relegated isn't going to get relegated, and the whole season just doesn't count. So anybody that thought, you know, that their team was up and safe and going into the Premiership or into League One or even into actual league football is now not going to happen. The story that I have for this is, why is the Premier League any different? If they've all decided that this is what they're going to do, or the PFA and FA have decided that this is what they're going to do, why is the Premier League any different? Apart from, obviously, money.
I mean, perhaps they are, but I do know something. A bunch of Chelsea players have actually come out and donated to funds to help those impacted most for the coronavirus, obviously via charities and that. And they've not put a small sum of money in. I think about 6 or 7 of them. There's about another. I think the app said it was about 17 million quid.
Yeah,
between
no
the 7
fee.
of them. Yeah. So that's just Chelsea. So obviously, when it comes to them, I think they just did that from the kindness of their heart.
No, I wasn't talking about rich players.
No, I
was
know.
talking about the rich people. I meant the owners and the fucking FA themselves.
I mean, I'm pretty sure if you ask Roman Abramovich, he'll probably agree to just write off the season. Not that we're having a bad season, because obviously, no, we're actually in 4th and looking to regain 3rd, but it's actually been quite a good season for us when you actually think of it. Well, I mean, we had the embargo where we're not allowed to get new players, and we had bans and this, that, and the other.
Sure.
To get 4th, nearly 3rd in a season like that's been stacked against us, is going to be a good season. We're still going to get Champions League football. We have a chance of winning a trophy.
Did you get Champions League football last year?
Yes.
As in this year? Where did you get?
We're currently at the moment looking to try and progress to the, I think, quarterfinals.
So you would, if the season was to be wrote off, you wouldn't be able to get to the semi-finals or the finals?
No.
I mean, does that seem fair?
Yes, if everyone else is doing it. I'd happily give up the chance of winning the Champions League to just write off the entire season and start afresh next season. The people who probably won't do it, though, is you got to think about it, is Liverpool. Because this could be their first season to win the Premier League for the first time in couple of decades.
I think
so
it's
it'll be
16
them.
Years. I think it's 16, 17 years.
Yeah. So it's them you got to look for. Everyone else will probably go, yeah, it's just wipe out the season like everyone else has, take the loss and just start afresh next year and go from there. But it'll be Liverpool who go, why should we have to when we're so close to winning a trophy, this, that and the other?
Well, they have won the trophy.
Everyone else, I mean, they have won the trophy. It's now mathematically impossible to
lose.
Yeah, to lose. So what they should do is they should just cut the season short. Everyone, everywhere, obviously, don't relegate anyone who was going to be relegated. And the top 4, obviously, apart from Man City, who aren't allowed Champions League football next season, or for a few seasons.
For a few, yeah.
Yeah, give Liverpool the Champions League, give the trophy because they were going to win it anyway. And obviously, give that, and whoever was going to get Champions League football, give them Champions League football. Stop now and start afresh next season. I reckon that would be the best for everyone. Just give Liverpool the title because they were going to win it and just go from there.
I mean, I do see your logic. I do see it. But I don't know. I just feel that in a month's time, mostly everything will be set back to the way that it was. And maybe you just need to extend the season a little bit more. And then you can just carry it on.
Or we do what I was thinking of, and instead of playing the actual matches, do the matchups on, say, FIFA, and whoever wins gets the match.
Yeah, well, we all know that doesn't actually really represent anything. I was able to win the bloody Champions League with Aston Villa with no bloody extra players like 2-3 seasons ago. It doesn't really represent anything. It just depends on how good that one player is.
Yeah, but no, I mean, like, you have the actual sports teams and do it sort of like you have your own starting 11 that you would have put out for those matches. Each one plays against someone they're opposite, and whoever gets the most wins, say, out of them all, so like if 11 matches, whoever gets 6, whoever gets 5, yeah, sort of. And
I'm with you. I'm
So
with
it's
you. I
not
just
just
don't see it.
Yeah, so it's not just one match. It's literally like 11 people play, and whoever wins the most out of those 11 should get the match.
So
It'll be interesting.
What about the football teams that are not actually, should we say, financially viable? Let's take Bolton, for instance, that are almost going to be relegated out of, I believe, League Two, because they've got like an extra 12 points deduction from the beginning of the season, and are just, financially not viable at the minute. And other teams around them as well that are exactly in the same positions, and so on and so forth. Do they get a write-off where they don't have to pay any of their money back? Do they get a write-off, and other teams around them that are losing money at this minute in time, do they get a write-off, or who pays for all of that? How does that work?
I mean,
because that's where we're going with ending the season as it is. It's okay for the Premiership side, so to speak, because they can handle the financial burden in an aspect where other teams all the way down to non-league teams can't handle that financial burden. Some of them are going to have to liquidize or go under simply because of not finishing the season.
But it's just something we have to think about. I mean...
No, I understand, but literally postponing the season for an extra month or a month and a half could be the difference between a club, local club, from going under or for carrying on and surviving. That's where I'm going with that. That's the actual difference. Waiting an extra month to then finish off the season, or say 2 months to finish off the season, could be the difference from a club going under and never being able to reform again to staying afloat.
I mean, who says it's going to be another couple of months? Some experts, I'll say that in quotes because obviously I don't know whether they're actually experts or not. They're touted as experts, but yeah, they say that this could happen. This could be going on for the next couple of years.
Then if that were to happen, then most of the human race would die out.
Well, you'd have to ask them.
I mean, do you mean that it would be reoccurring? Because most of them are saying that it would come back.
Yeah, that.
One of the possibilities is that we're going to have, like at the moment, we're in a big shitstorm rush of cases, but that it will settle down. However, that will still impact on something like sport where there's still cases going around and there might still be restrictions on it. So there's all sorts of different reasons that I've been hearing about why it could go. When someone says it's going on for a long time, it's been what they're expecting to happen varies from person to person. But it's like part of it is that we don't know if the virus is going to mutate, and we don't know how long it's going to be to have a safe, usable vaccine.
Sure.
So yeah, it's going to impact on things very differently. I think in the case of sport, I don't know. It's hard to say like what a crowd's going to be like once you have big football crowds turning up, and I know what they can be like sometimes.
No. I completely understand what you mean, but what about the idea of just doing the matches behind closed doors and doing something like an interaction where you pay a subscription fee to be able to watch them?
I was literally just going to suggest something like that. How about we make sure all the players are fit and without it, and then we just play in with empty stadiums? I mean, it's not going to be the same atmosphere, but at least then we'll be able to get the season on and everyone will be able to go, and then it will be able to sort of like address itself, because obviously, I mean, Chelsea won't be able to play at the moment because we have a couple of players with it.
Yeah.
Or we just keep them isolated, make sure the rest of the players are fit and without it, and then go with that team or go with those people.
Well, I mean, you can just count them as a virus. Like if somebody got food poisoning, you just count it as a virus, as as an injury, don't you? At that point, you're just not with the team.
Yeah, and you just keep them obviously at home where they can sit and watch the game or something. And yeah, but obviously doing it behind closed doors is the most logical solution to everything. Just play every single match behind closed doors. Have Sky basically set up a pay-per-view sort of like system where it's not too expensive, but it's like, say, like a $5 a match of the matches you want to watch, or this game, and then obviously
you could do it as a factor of, if you want the best camera angles, that the clubs themselves are the ones that where you'd get the best camera angles, where Sky is just, you know, a broadcasting one from the top down type of thing, like a director type of camera.
Yeah.
But to make sure that the clubs get ticket revenue, the best cameras have to go to the actual club themselves, especially for the lower leagues, because otherwise they just won't make any money getting, should we say, trickle down money from Sky. It just wouldn't be viable for them to do that. They would have to have their own service.
Yeah, I mean, we've come up with the basics. They'll just have to work it out between themselves. But the basics basically have cameras inside. I mean, Sky could literally just rent them out to the club. The clubs broadcast it themselves, take the biggest chunk of revenue, and basically just Sky takes, say, like 5 or 10% of it for the use of their cameras, and then go from there. So that obviously the clubs get 90% of the revenue. Sky still gets a little bit of operation costs, and everyone wins.
No, I'm with you on that one, because as you said, Sky wouldn't be able to do the whole of every league, though. That's the difference. They just wouldn't be able to cope with the bandwidth and the sheer amount of broadcasting power that would take. If you were to take it away from Sky and give it to the actual clubs, then the clubs would be able to use their own bandwidth or use their own broadcasting prowess, or and
then obviously most clubs don't have their own cameras, so that's what I was thinking of.
Sky, you got phones would do it enough.
Yeah, or even just something like that. Just set it up static, one camera that catches the whole thing.
Well, you won't be able to have one at both ends.
Yeah, one at both ends. So obviously, you can get the sort of like the whole picture. One does it up until the halfway. The other camera does it the other half, and you basically just, when you're on screen, like it does with us on here, you put it together, like my TVs, or not my monitors. It just converts it into two separate things. You line it up, and you get the whole match.
Yeah.
And obviously, you can have Sky rent out their cameras. It doesn't have to be Sky broadcast it. Sky could just literally just lend out cameras or rent out their cameras, and then the clubs themselves can go from there.
Exactly.
That's what I was thinking. Not the Sky broadcast it. Sky just lend out their cameras because obviously they're professional cameras. And
no, I get it. We've only got 2 more stories left, but I think that they can kind of roll into one, as I can do this as an actual question, and it'd be easier to do it as an actual question rather than as reading the story.
Sorry, I was just reading chat. You got a loafer. When are you going to discuss women's football, you bigots? I could suggest a few camera angles, like pointing away from the pitch, watching paint dry.
I actually quite like women's football, believe it or not.
Yeah,
I quite like women's football.
I sit and watch Chelsea women's.
Yeah.
Because obviously I've got the 5th match, and they put some of their, or the 5th stand, and they put some of their matches on there, so I'll just sit and watch it on my phone.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, I quite like women's football for the actual football as well as other reasons, but for the actual football as well, because it reminds me of how, not to the same extent of how hard the tackles used to be, but how the game used to be played. Because I would actually say that they're less acty than the men nowadays. Whether if they get tackled, they kind of mostly get up and play on, where most of the men roll around for like an hour. Exaggeration, obviously, but I would actually say that the women's football is more manly than the men's now. Especially if you're watching Chelsea. Right, okay. So, do we think that the Prime Minister can function while he's got mild symptoms of the coronavirus? I'll leave you two to discuss that one for a couple of minutes, because my opinion is, of course he fucking can. It's not a debilitating fucking disease that's going to completely not only stop him from being able to make decisions. And if it gets to that point, then he will, step down and let Dominic Raab completely take over if he gets better.
No, I'm in complete agreement. Just because you have, say, like a virus or something, I know it's a bad comparison, but it basically is like a flu, but it's a more deadly form of flu. But as long as you stick with just mild, or obviously you only have mild symptoms, you can continue your life as normally. Obviously, you just have to self-isolate, but obviously you don't have to be in a room to run the country. You can do everything like we're doing, but via streaming services or via video chats or video conferences. You don't actually have to be there to get your same message across. It's not like it's going to have more impact when you're standing there in the room. Your message is still the same regardless of whether you're there personally or whether you're basically doing it over the phone or whether you're doing it via a video service. It's still going to be the same no matter what. Obviously, the only difference is you're not physically there. Of course you can run a country with having symptoms without being there. It's ridiculous to suggest otherwise.
No, definitely with you on that one. What about you, RoboBrain? Do you think anybody can do anything while they're ill?
In this case, yes. I mean, there's a few references to prior prime ministers who have been sick, and I'm pretty sure all of them have had some very serious issues. I don't think this is going to be Anthony Eden whacked off on amphetamines, acting erratically during the Suez Canal crisis type problem. I think this is going to be sitting down with a cup of, lemon tea with honey in it, and probably just, sitting at a laptop with his phone next to him, talking to people constantly. And if anything, it's going to be probably a good thing, because you're going to be seeing, your elected leader living by example, and he's going to be, it'll be a symbol of hope, not problems. He's not going to be debilitated by it. He's going to be showing people that this probably is not going to be as bad, while at the same time being able to talk about the fact that for some people it is bad, and he's now in the eye of the storm himself. He's not a distracted, out of touch person who doesn't understand how other people are living with it. He's, as opposed to the person writing this article who seems to be very out of touch, because they just seem to have narrowed down to, he's sick, without considering what the illness is, et cetera, et cetera. It's I can't help but just look and think, the bloody Guardians at it again. That's sort of my take.
Yeah, I was going to say, when it comes to this sort of thing, I'm going to go off your point when it comes to lead by example. It's like he's going to show people that you can still get things done regardless of whether you have this illness or not. It's just basically taking a step back, isolate yourself, get some rest, don't take things too hectically, and basically just slow down for a minute, have a chance to think, and go from there. Like when it comes to he'll be sat down at his laptop, obviously, with his phone by his side, talking to people. He'll be just basically able to do that. He can do that, obviously, without being ill, but when it comes to him being ill, he can basically say, see, it's not as bad as some in the media would have you think it is. It's literally just a respiratory issue that, obviously, as long as you are basically not stressing yourself out, basically not exerting yourself too much, and you're staying away from others, can be completely treatable and can be completely, what's the word I'm looking for? Non-debilitating. You can just go on about your daily life without too much worry, too much care, too much, whatever. And basically just, your life doesn't have to stop because of this. You can just carry on. Just slow down and relax yourself. Because I think that's what does it more damage. That people get it and think, they're going to stress, they get stressed out because they think they're going to die, this, that, and the other. And it basically just it gets worse from there. But as long as if you get it and you only have mild symptoms, you basically treat yourself with relaxing, resting, and basically, as Radio Brain said, having a cuppa with a bit of lemon and some honey in it.
I mean, from both of your points, let's take the point of, obviously Boris Johnson has got the coronavirus. He's got mild symptoms. Let's be honest, Boris Johnson is still going to be making most of the decisions. He's still going to be, I would imagine, quite a lively figure. He may even do some live streams, I imagine, possibly. But let's go from the point of what you both said. When it comes to a point with him, he is going to be a beacon of hope, because I would have thought that regardless of what his age is and so on and so forth, I would imagine that any sort of form of healthcare that he's going to get is going to be the best of the best because of who he is as the Prime Minister. Regardless of what party the Prime Minister would have been, he would have got the best healthcare regardless anyway, because of who he is. So when, what I would say being facetious when I say this, but when he does actually, get better, he will be the beacon of light to say, look, there is light at the end of the tunnel. You do get better. Maybe not for everybody, obviously. I'm not taking it out of context or anything. But if and when he does get better, he will be that beacon to say, look, there is light at the end of the tunnel. Not for everyone, unfortunately, but for the majority there will be. And he will be that shining example, that literal example of doing things from on your back, so to speak, and getting things done. I don't think that you can have a better Prime Minister than one that's been afflicted. Is probably going to be a very active, afflicted Prime Minister. Why probably, I would say definitely, but probably going to get better from the coronavirus and be that beacon of light saying, well, look, fuck it, we've done it.
Well, yeah.
I mean, not like that, but, close enough.
It's like, it's the fact that he's also going to be showing people that no matter if you're ill or not, you can work through it. It's not a definitive you're going to die or you're going to be left crippled or dilapidated because of it. You can just work through it as normal, just isolate yourself away from people.
Yeah. No, exactly that. Exactly that. Does anybody else have anything else that they want to add to this story? I'll take that as a no then.
And unless he's speaking and we just can't hear him.
No, I'm fine. No.
Oh no, there we go.
Right, okay then. I thought I'd quickly read this story because this one's a bit important. So I know that a lot of people on the left have been saying, look, the NHS staff should be getting tests done because they're literally on the front line, so to speak. They're literally the ones storming the trenches, so to speak. So they should be getting tests. Well, they're getting tests. Can you stop saying that the government's not doing anything to protect the NHS? It literally is. So frontline hospital staff in England are starting to be tested to see whether they have the coronavirus. Workers with symptoms and those who live with people who have symptoms will be checked, starting with hundreds of critical care doctors and nurses. Tests for all A&E staff, paramedics and GPs are expected to follow, and later social care staff will be tested. So even all the way to the care homes, so to speak, are going to be tested.
Yeah, even people who work with, say, or my brother's one-to-ones, they will be, eventually it will trickle down and they'll be tested themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not just those who are on the front lines, it's all people who do care. It's just starting with the most important first and working your way down. Exactly
that. I mean, it comes as a number of people have died with the virus in the UK rose by 260 to 1,019 on Saturday. The latest government figures...
I was going to say, I know I shouldn't say this, but a shame that wasn't for that way. It would be a megabyte of people. 1,024.
Oh dear, that's kind of nerdy and
kind of dark at the same time.
Yeah,
I know. I don't mean it as in I want it to happen, but I wanted it.
I'm
to
sure
happen,
it has
so
already by now. I'm sure it has
probably
already by now. To be fair,
yeah.
The latest figures say that there are now 17,089 confirmed cases in the UK. In Wales and Scotland, health workers are already being tested, while Northern Ireland's testing begins on Monday. Until now, only patients in English hospitals with flu-like symptoms were being routinely tested, but this had led to concerns that without testing, many health and care workers would not know whether they were safe to return to work. Which now everybody can stop bitching and actually say, look, we now have enough tests that the staff that are dealing with it can be tested, because I don't mean this in a horrible way again, and the NHS staff are massively important, and this is not to sound disheartening or disheartening to people, but if you've got people that are at a higher stage of symptom lists, then they need to be tested before you. And if you only have a finite number of tests, then you have to go by which is needed the most. And that unfortunately was, until we got higher amounts of tests, high-risk test patients, people that had very high cases or very high symptoms. And that's what it is now. So now everybody can stop moaning and actually have the fact of they are going to be tested. So I think that we can all agree that this is absolutely amazing stuff and probably should have been done earlier. But again, it's, from my understanding, was to do with the actual limited resources that we had for testing to begin with. What do you guys think on this one? Do you think that this should have been a priority to begin with, or do you think that this is the right time in general, or what do you guys think?
I think it's hard to say, but it's one thing so far, given the shortage of actual tests, like I believe it's like a little, it's something, it's a specific unit that they have to have, and they didn't have enough. The tactical thing to do would be to focus on people out there for various reasons. One is because you're trying to treat them, but also hospital staff and so forth, they're trained to deal with it in advance. They know how to, they've got other equipment, they've got other practices and other things that they know what to do in order to prevent being infected. So they're not technically as vulnerable. I think it's really the short end of the stick. They can't just be tested consistently.
Yeah.
But they're not as vulnerable in this situation. I mean, the other thing that comes to mind is, how does this compare to any other testing that they might do? You might have a flu, a particular strain of flu going around. Do they immediately get tested? Do they get tested every day, or does it happen periodically? Other factors would be involved, and I think the tests probably would be better sent to people who are older because they're more at risk, and people with other conditions that are going to be there. I think it's just been a tactical decision, and hopefully it's going to improve. And if you want to blame anyone, blame the Chinese for being slow at giving us the tests in the first place several months ago.
No, definitely agree with you on that one.
I mean, if you, I was going to say, if you want to blame them more, blame them for not coming out 3 weeks faster, because according to the studies, if they would have come out 3 weeks earlier, literally just 3 weeks earlier, 95% of all of this could have been avoided.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's,
we shut the borders earlier as well. That if we had, to me, it just looks like the governments of the world did not respond fast enough, because they just, they didn't want to go up to China and say, we think you're not telling the truth.
I mean, it's not even the China; it's the fact that the World Health Organization told them not to, because it wasn't a big issue. I think those who are not worst affected, those who were to blame most for this are China and the WHO, because they both failed to do the basic necessity or the basic necessary things for this to be worked. I mean, but then again, you have, obviously at the moment we have in America and the UK conservative governments, and anything they would have done that would have impacted immigration, the left would have chastised them for it. Like, we can't win. The left are now saying that Trump and Boris didn't act fast enough, yet when Trump and Boris did want to act fast enough, they were called racist, xenophobic, told that they'd blown it all out of proportion by the same people who are now chastising them for not doing it quick enough.
Speaking of the WHO, did you see on Twitter that Taiwan think it was Taiwan. We're trying to have a conversation with them about how they have been dealing with the situation. And as soon as they started to talk about Taiwan's
China's.
Taiwan's, not Tehran, but Taiwan situation, they would not actually talk about it, and they actually cut the call off twice because of how China would want them to react, because China doesn't like talking about Taiwan, does it?
No, it doesn't.
That was absolutely amazing to me that a WHO organization was like, no, we're not going to talk about you, and hung up the call.
Yeah, it's like, the thing is, it's the WHO doing that sort of thing that's got us into this situation. I'm sorry, that's what I'm saying. It's not Boris's fault. It's not Trump's fault. It's not because they didn't act fast enough or acted too fast or didn't do anything. It's because the WHO themselves, who are now blaming these same people, did not say to do or did not take this seriously enough.
Mm-hmm.
It's entirely, not entirely their fault, but they are, in my opinion, 50% to blame, and the other 50% is China.
Yeah.
They're as bad as each other.
No, I completely agree on that one. The good thing is, we are now able to test the NHS staff. I suppose the next thing is apparently getting more PPE, because apparently the NHS staff don't have PPE, which is not actually true. It's the fact that they're using it so quick that they can't replace it quick enough. But, nuance and actual context doesn't fucking matter anymore.
Yeah. I mean, they're not like me. I have a pair of steel toe caps. I can use them in practically any situation, whereas NHS workers can't. If they use an apron and it gets some liquid on it from a patient, they have to whip it off and chuck it immediately.
Yep. Same with their gloves. Same with everything.
Yeah, and then they have to get another one.
Yep.
As you said, it's not a case of they don't have it. It's the fact that they're using it. In which, I mean, you can sit there and say it's them doing their jobs.
Of course it is. But that still doesn't mean that it's not being replaced quick enough, which is not the same as them not giving it.
Yes. I mean, there are finite resources, and in a world where everyone is having to be locked down and the workers aren't there, production is going to crawl. Slow down to a practical crawl, if not a stop entirely. I mean, the B&Q near me, completely closed. No one going in or out. They've got the gates closed and everything.
Yeah.
That is going to affect builders, and that's going to affect, sort of trickle down there. It's the same applies for when it comes to medical resources. Yeah. If you can't have workers in to do it, or you have to have a skeleton crew, because obviously the 2 meter apart rule, then you're going to have you're going to have a slower production line, and you're going to be slower to get it out.
Yeah, no, definitely that. How is everything going in your country, Radio Brain? Simply because obviously we're so focused on us that we don't really know what's going on in other countries, to be fair.
Oh, if you go and look at the Johns Hopkins map, we're not covered in red like you are, although, because I've been watching that for about 2 months now, and it's just been, a while back it was just China, but it's lit up Europe and North America, and the southern continents aren't seemingly affected, but we've gone into lockdown. All states have closed their borders. The entire country has. The state I'm in South Australia, we haven't had any deaths yet. We've only got like 287 cases, but it's hard to say. At the moment, it looks like the only people, well, not the only people, but apparently about 2/3 of people who have got it have come in from overseas. That's why I'm kind of pissy about closing the borders, because I would have thought they would have done something about it. They actually were. They were putting people in quarantine 2 months ago, coming off of like cruise ships and stuff. But then people are flying in. I saw a story. I don't know when it happened. Must have been fairly recently. Someone came back from overseas, went to a 50th birthday party that had about 90 people at it, and about 30 people ended up being infected. And I've heard other ridiculous stories. My cousin works in an old folks home. A guy came back from South Korea went straight from the airport to visit his mother, and apparently it was lucky that someone figured it out before he walked in the front door. And it's things like this. It just goes back to the border. And in Australia, we've got a very different geography.
Yeah.
We've got like six states, 6 capitals. They're all a long way from each other. But it's hard to tell. I mean, it's pretty daunting. We don't know what's going to happen to the economy. But it's kind of the same with the same underlying thing is there with what's happening with you. And as I said when it started, it's a bit surreal because there's obvious signs of things being shut down, but I'm still seeing people around. I took the dog for a walk yesterday. There's quite a lot of people out, but they're all in pairs walking in the distance. I was at a park and I was avoiding people, but whereas only a week before I went and there were 4 or 5 barbecues on.
Fucking hell.
And even then I noticed that was before the lockdown really kicked in.
Yeah.
But I know people were like, the way they were sitting in chairs around in a circle in the barbecue, they were like, you've been seeing this come for over the space of a month. And it's really surreal. It's obviously changing, people obviously becoming more aware, but it's also hard to take some of it seriously because we've got a lot of space here and it's hard to, I go for a walk around the block or something. I don't see anyone, but I'm not, I go to the supermarket and I'm.
You're all right, mate. I think you may have dropped out or something.
Paranoidus.
Yeah. Carry on. You all right? Has everything just stopped, or is it just me? No, that's all right. I don't know if you're still trying to speak, Radio Brain, but you kind of dropped. Right. I'm probably going to give last words to everybody and then get off.
Disgusting.
Well, everybody's got to have their fun time. The reason why I'm going to be ending a little bit quicker, Radio Brain, because I weren't sure if you finished or not, is because you kept on dropping in and out, more out than actually in. Again, getting myself off. Yeah, that's no problem then. Radio Brains just sent me a message saying that the connection's gone a bit weak, so we're going to be ending it anyway. So if you can, Radio Brain, did you want to try and say goodbye, and then if you wanted to, you could get off? Right, I'm guessing that unfortunately Radio Brain can't say goodbye at the minute, but what we'll do is we'll say bye for him. Obviously, he's looking forward to coming again next week, hopefully. Hopefully, you guys are going to be coming again next week, because I think that anytime that you put in COVID-19 anywhere on YouTube, it completely destroys everything, because there's only been 4 people watching the whole of the stream the whole way through this.
One of them is me.
Yeah, obviously one of them is me as well. So 2 of them's Radio Brain. But yeah, so hopefully everybody turns up again next week. It may take a couple of people to be able to watch it or tweet it out. Anybody that is still around, just share it if you can. Try and kick the fucking algorithm in the nuts. Sees that Radio Brain has just come back, so I will try and see if he can be heard. You all right there, mate?
Yep. You hear me?
Just about, mate. Yeah. Did you want to say goodbye? Because we're going to be ending now anyway. So.
Okay, fair enough. Anyway, good to talk to you guys again.
Yep. No problem, mate.
Quite the depressing circumstances.
Well, it depends. I think it's actually quite uplifting circumstances. That even with the idea of the pandemic that's going around in the whole of the world, we can still have talks with literally people across the country and across the other side of the world as well. And I think that's absolutely amazing how people say that we're so distant from each other, but yet it can feel that we're so close.
Yeah. even dealing with the virus itself. I mean, if it's as bad as some people have said, one of the ways that we're able to cope with it is all this technology and shit, and like people being able to work from home. We, probably weren't able to do that when the Spanish flu was tearing across the globe.
Exactly. Did you want to give your final word, Radio Brain, and then we'll pass that off to Kai afterwards, and then I'll.
No, that's all good.
Is that your word? That's fine. After you, then.
I'm just basically saying, stop panicking entirely. Just lower it a little. It's not as big a deal as some people are making it out to be, but it's also not as low of a deal, if you know what I mean, as some people are making out as well. A healthy balance in the middle is where you've got to be. So just take care of yourselves, look after yourselves, make sure you look after the people you love. Basically, stay in contact with people. Obviously, don't have physical contact with them or that. Just don't try to get through this alone. The world has got to come together, not physically or literally, just metaphorically and via stuff like video chats and basically text messages and sites like Twitter, Facebook, and that sort of thing. Just you're not alone. Don't sit and act like you are, or sit and think you are. But make sure you wash your hands. You treat this as seriously as it deserves to be treated.
Yeah, because literally people can die and are dying from it.
Yes, one of those people being me. So stay back.
Didn't know you were religious.
I'm not, but mind you, that's what I keep saying to my mum when I put up the cross when she comes near me. I don't actually need that because I have a huge one on my arm.
You do, indeed.
But yeah, I'm not religious. It's just symbolic.
I'm as atheist can be.
Yeah, so am I.
It's almost similar design. I mean, yours is much bigger than mine, but
mine takes up the entirety of my forearm.
Yeah.
So obviously, I did it for me nan.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, I don't have really too much to say. I echo exactly what Kay just said. Please just take this seriously. I know that people are going, "Oh, it's just a virus. Oh, it's just the flu," and so on and so forth. To you, it may well be, and to you, it may only end up being. But to so many other people in the world, and to so many other people in general, it's not. And that's the reason why it's important, very important, that you do your own civic duty. And I know it's a bit preachy, but it is important. You have to do your civic duty, which is making sure that you look after the other person, because the other person is going to look after you. Again, I know that's preachy, and again, I know that generally doesn't happen. But you've got to be the first person to make that first move. Because if you don't do it, then why the fuck is anybody else? With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Speak to you all again very soon. But bye for now.